Welcome to Political Beatdown. I'm Ben Meiselas, joined by Michael Cohen. Cohen, we've got a lot to discuss. When we went live on Thursday, it was really the first day when we learned about these targeted ICE raids in Los Angeles, not going after the criminals, but in kind of a massive show of force, going after hardworking people in apparel factories, workplaces across the city, going into the courtrooms while people were going through their lawful process. You had ICE agents waiting in the bushes when people would leave court, grab them, snatch them, make them disappear, going into neighborhoods, waiting outside of schools, and really provoking the community. That was Thursday. Friday, we saw peaceful protests by and large. That doesn't mean that there were some agitators here and there, but nothing that the LAPD and LA sheriffs would not be able to deal with on their own. But by and large, overwhelmingly peaceful protests. I remember the LAPD put out a press release thanking the organizers for peaceful protests. And then we got word on, Friday night that Donald Trump was going to federalize the National Guard. He invoked a statute, 10 U.S.C. 12406. It's really never been used before. It's not the Insurrection Act. It's not martial law. But basically, Donald Trump is declaring Insurrection Act and martial law without saying those words. That's why they went after that statute. The specific statute, 10 U.S.C. 12406, requires that there be approval by the government, which of course did not happen here. It also requires that there be an invasion by a foreign country, is what it specifically says, a rebellion, or that the president can no longer execute the laws so that they have to go coordinate with the state. Of course, none of those things happened. And then we saw—
Which, by the way, was very funny when they asked Pete Hegseth the question, and he was completely unprepared. I'm sure we'll get into that as well.
We will, and just to preview it, Hegseth said all three of those things were met. Of course, all three of those things were met. And then it was Congressmember Aguilar said, but it requires the approval of the governor. And Hegseth says, well, Donald Trump's the president, so Trump did it. And Aguilar's like, but it says you need the governor. And then Hegseth's like, look, Donald Trump's exercising a power that he was given, and it's a good thing that he did it. We're not.
But then also Congresswoman, I think it's DeLauro, if I'm not mistaken. She turned around, she goes, wait. If it's all three, are you saying that the president is unable to affect the laws? So, which is the third one, which of course undermines basically everything that Trump is talking about. I mean, it's truly amazing. They're all so worried, Ben, about upsetting their fearless leader, right? They're so afraid to say something that he will find not, to his liking, that they basically lie before these hearings. They make things up, and worse than even make things up, they're not even listening to the question. All they want to do is read off the talking points that they get on a daily basis. It's really very dangerous to democracy.
Well, let's be real. There's no longer a democracy in the United States of America. Democracy is dead. We're not, in my view, we're not in a constitutional crisis. There is no effective constitution right now to stop what Donald Trump's doing in the United States of America as of June 10th, 2025. The resistance and opposition still is strong. I have a great deal of confidence in the opposition and the resistance. Donald Trump is deeply unpopular, but in my view, the United States of America is no longer a democracy, no longer abides by a constitution. I really see no distinction, really none, between the United States and Russia, the United States and, say, Saudi Arabia right now, because Donald Trump says, I'm federalizing the National Guard. There's no lawful basis of it. He does it. And then you have all of the Republicans support it. They go, oh, it must be absolutely, a co-equal branch of government. Look, in Russia, they have a parliament, right? In China, they have a parliament. In North Korea, they have a parliament, right? They have people who show up and they pretend that we got to vote. Are you going to vote with Putin? Are you going to vote with Kim Jong-un? They have parliaments. That's what our Republican Party is today. And, where Donald Trump wants to go with this is his big move coming up is to get rid of the midterms. Like, he doesn't want to have midterms. He doesn't want to have elections, in my view. That's what's on the horizon. And he was, in my view, and I'll ask you what you think, Cohen, I think that he thought early on that what he and Elon Musk were doing would be able to basically storm over everything, and then he'd be able to control. He was met with opposition and resistance that he didn't expect. And then I think he kind of lost patience before his dictator parade. That's this weekend, by the way. Thunderstorm, 65% chance on the dictator parade. Thank you. And we'll see what happens there.
Right. The good Lord is watching down.
Well, and we'll go over what he said in this bizarre press thing that he held today. He was talking about FEMA, and I think the purpose of it was so that Kristi Noem, the Homeland Security Secretary, wanted to be like, don't worry, we're in hurricane season, but FEMA's going to be there for you. And then Donald Trump's like, FEMA's gone, we're getting rid of FEMA. But then he started talking about all this other stuff, and this was one of the most telling moments, I think, about what a lot of this is about. I'll get your take on it, Cohen, where Trump says, if you protest my military parade on this weekend, I'm coming after you. Here's what he said.
Celebrating big on Saturday. We're going to have a lot of, and if there's any protest that wants to come out, they will be met with very big force. By the way, for those people that want to protest, they're going to be met with very big force. And I haven't even heard about a protest, but this is people that hate our country, but they will be met with very heavy force. Thank you very much, everyone.
If you protest,
so could you imagine you're going to go out there. By the way, it's the same day as the the No Kings what do you call it?
No Kings
protests all around the country, including in Washington, D.C. So imagine this. The Constitution of the United States gives you the right to peacefully protest, to stand there with a sign, somewhat the same thing that Trump did, right, during the campaigns, right? The mass deportation now signs, the lock him up, lock her up sort of signs, the, drain the swamp signs. So you're going to go there, you're going to be like, fuck Trump sign. And the next thing you know, it's going to be met with force. I'm wondering whether or not there's actually some form of a mandate that Trump has given, whether it is to, DC police, to the National Guard, whether it's going to be to the Marines, to say, if you see a protester holding up a sign which is negative towards Trump, that you have the right to crack their skull. I want to share something with you, Ben, and people don't know this case, but I was actually subpoenaed to testify in a case which was called Galizia, and it was Galizia versus Donald J. Trump. That case was all about a group of individuals, I believe it was of Mexican descent, who were protesting in front of Trump Trump Tower on Fifth Avenue. And they were holding up a sign that was very negative towards Trump. And he sent somebody downstairs to one of his employees to grab the sign. Well, the employee did, grabbed it. In so grabbing, ended up banging the guy across the side of the head, got a hold of the sign, tore it in half. Well, let me be very clear. After my testimony, Galizia won the case, right? And it was he won the case, and it was determined that they violated his First Amendment rights. That's what you're going to see here. And I tell you this story so that you understand that this is a rerun of an old movie. I've seen this before, and we're going to see it again. And the problem that each and every one of us have to understand is that if it happens again, which we know it will just be the beginning of a confluence of these sort of protesters being assaulted, being detained, incarcerated, whatever may be the result, for exercising their First Amendment right to free speech and protest.
No, I also find it interesting, Cohen, how none of the corporate news had been covering. We were covering it. We're not corporate news, though. All of the protests that have been taking place, all peaceful protests across the country leading up to what transpired on Friday. But they will sure focus on the four Waymo vehicles that are on fire. They'll look at the bad actors, and there are bad actors. And let me be clear, anyone who's violent at the protest, anyone who breaks the law needs to be held accountable, needs to be condemned, needs to be arrested immediately. But that's a very, very tiny fraction of the peaceful protests that are actually happening. But the media goes right to it. They'll stage a reporter right by where the action is, and then they'll beam that image as though that's what's happening across the country or all over LA, to play into a narrative that this is what all of LA looks like, when it's a 0.00001% literally of the city of LA, yet alone the county of LA. And they play right into the kind of fascism gamification of it all. It reminds me of the media, the way they cover, I always think Jesse Waters looks like that guy from the Hunger Games, the dude with the big hair. But the way the Hunger Games media covers the games, to me, is how our corporate news covers Trump's fascism. And they gamify it in a way where they don't take a step back and go, what the hell are we doing? We're supposed to be the fourth estate. That's a dictator right there. And he is federalizing National Guard troops over 2 cars that are on fire or 4 cars that are on.
The best is you listen. You listen to, for example, like Fox News. And what they do is they show there's 2 guys on motorcycles holding a Mexican flag. And Jesse Waters or Laura Ingraham or one of the others, they're sitting there and they're like, look at the disrespect as LA is on fire. After Trump, of course, compares this one vehicle that these 2 guys in a motorcycle are driving around holding a Mexican flag. Of course, they turned around and said that it's a Palestinian flag, which, by the way, would make no difference. I don't give a crap what flag that you're riding around. It makes no difference. There's 1 car on fire, and Trump is comparing this to all of LA is on fire. It's as bad, but maybe even worse than the LA wildfires that they are still recovering from. I mean, I understand MAGA. I do. I understand that they are drinking the Kool-Aid, but there's a difference between acknowledging what Trump is saying and listening to the lies, to owning the lies, which are so over-exaggerated and so stupid. They are so fundamentally stupid. There's 1 fucking car in a parking lot that is on fire, and literally they bring it up and they show this wide screen of the whole thing. It's 1 freaking car on fire, and they're making it basically parroting Trump's nonsense that all of LA is on fire. Look at the damage. Look at the destruction. Yes, somebody wrote "fuck ICE" on the side of a wall. Okay, I get it. Wrong. Don't do it. I said it even when I was on MSNBC the other day because nobody else wants to say it. Everybody go home. Just go home. Don't give Trump the oxygen he needs to keep this fire burning. Go home, relax, or stay on the sidewalk. Don't mess up the highway. Just stay on the side. Instead, 1 car on fire, and that car is now all of LA. It's that all of LA is now a pile of ashes.
That's what they said. They said 90. They said all of LA is on fire, and it's just simply not true. But I think it's also important when Trump says that and said all of these things about LA. We're going to go after mass deportations, enemy from within, all of this rhetoric that you and I were shouting from the rooftops. Look what he's saying. Look what he's saying. And nobody in the corporate news would take it seriously at all. I mean, if you're Canada, if you're Greenland, for example, yes, he wants to invade you. He wants to make it's not a joke. And again, it goes back to the corporate news coverage. The 51st state. Oh, what do you think about the 50? Donald Trump is behaving the way Putin behaves towards Ukraine. Putin says, I want to denazify Ukraine, that Ukraine is made up of Nazis. Donald Trump says Canada is a bunch of fentanyl dealers who are killing Americans intentionally, and we need to subjugate Canada and make it the 51st state. He's serious about conquering Canada with the military. He's serious about conquering Greenland with the military. What we're seeing right now in Los Angeles, we're going to see in other cities and states across the country.
Hey,
Donald
Ben,
Trump.
And I'm so sorry. What happens? I was meaning to ask you when we were offline. What happens during this No Kings protest when they go ahead and they do exactly what Trump is already telling everybody? Any protest that goes on is going to be met with force. What happens when all over the country, is he now going to start sending in more Marines? I understand from an inside source in DC that they're calling up more Marines and they're calling up more National Guardsmen. Is that supposed to be for DC, or is that going to be for all over the country, for Pennsylvania, for New York, for Chicago, for Idaho, for Oregon? And the thing that I wrote about actually in my Substack, which really concerns me, what happens when it takes place? For example, one of these No Kings protests takes place in a red state, in a ruby red state, where Trump has the governor that's basically licking his ass, right? Like it's some buffet over at Mar-a-Lago, and he's got all the legislators on his side. What happens then when the courts are all on his side to these individuals that are there peacefully protesting, holding signs, which again, constitutionally, it's what we're permitted to do? What happens?
I think that he will get those governors, right? Whether it is, you name the red state governor, Huckabee in Arkansas, or, I even think DeSantis in Florida, they'll all fall in line. They'll do what Newsom didn't do, which is required under the statute, 10 U.S.C. 12406, which is to basically the governor declares we're in a state of insurrection or we're in a state of chaos. We need your help. And then I think what you start to see are federal troops in all of these red states. And I think, willingly. And then I think you'll see the federal troops in blue states, as well. And I think that there'll be court orders handed down in short order saying what Trump is doing is unlawful. But I think that Trump will seek a stay from the Supreme Court. One of the things we know about the Supreme Court is they always grant Donald Trump the stay. They then set it for hearing. It doesn't mean Trump's going to win the hearing, but the Supreme Court always gives him the stay. So in Donald Trump's mind, okay, Governor Newsom and the Attorney General Bonta, they file a lawsuit. Northern District of California was actually assigned to a Clinton appointee who I've appeared before when I used to practice. Justice Breyer's brother is the federal judge, older gentleman. I think he's probably late 70s or 80s. No nonsense judge. I can't see him ruling in favor of Trump, but who knows here. That order happens. Then the Ninth Circuit, I think, will agree with the lower court, will agree with the federal judge. Then Donald Trump gets an emergency stay with the Supreme Court. My studying of the Supreme Court this term tells me they grant him the stay. They always give him the stay. They'll set an oral argument sometime like July or August, right? And when a lot of the damage will be done, and they'll stay the district court. And then I think you'll have a hearing on this sometime late July, mid-August, about Donald Trump's right to invoke these types of powers. And ultimately, let's not forget the Supreme Court is the reason that we're here, the 6 right-wing justices, by giving Donald Trump absolute immunity. If they didn't give him absolute immunity, what he did right here, a president would be afraid. If I'm invoking 10 USC 12406 unlawfully, and I'm marshaling the military against my citizens, I can be held accountable and I could be sentenced to life in prison. What the Supreme Court mapped out, and this was described in the absolute immunity order, what you do as commander in chief, you get full immunity for. Even, so if Donald Trump just says, I declare a national emergency,
so long that it's for national security purpose.
Exactly. Well, it's all, but to do it, all he has to do is say it.
That's
there
right.
is no, I'm doing this for national security.
There's no set requirements to this.
In contrast to, he wouldn't have immunity, but notice he tried to have it both ways with this when it comes to like the personal meme coin, right? Where you have his press secretary say it's personal time, but then you had Donald Trump have the seal of California so that he could say, yes, it was personal time, but I was doing crypto policy while I was there. He did that intentionally, in my view, to try to deal with the immunity piece of it, Cohen. That's what I thought. But let's be clear, we're in authoritarian times. That we are. And let me just share this with you. This is MAGA Mike Johnson from a press conference earlier today. And he's asked, do you believe that Newsom should face legal consequences in any way? And MAGA Mike Johnson, the speaker, says, I believe that Newsom should be tarred and feathered. He uses the language tarred and feathered. Let's play this clip.
The president said, possibly in jest, that if he were Tom Homan, he would arrest Gavin Newsom. Do you believe that Newsom should face consequences in a legal way?
Look, that's not my lane. I'm not going to give you legal analysis on whether Gavin Newsom should be arrested, but he ought to be tarred and feathered. I'll say that. I mean, look, he's standing in the way of the administration and the carrying out of federal law, right? He is applauding the bad guys and standing in the way of the good guys. He is trying to. He's a participant, an accomplice in our federal law enforcement agents being not just disrespected but assaulted. This is a serious problem, and the governor is now filing a lawsuit against the president. What a joke! Do your job, man. That's what I tell.
Yeah, I mean, could you imagine when the J6 insurrectionists, and let's call them what they were, when the J6 insurrectionists were beating police officers with baseball bats, with metal pipes, trying to crush their skulls with fences that have fallen down, or spraying them in the face with bear spray. That, the president of the United States, the very first act that he did was to pardon each and every one of them. But think about Trump's recent line, if they spit, we will hit. He literally wants these guys, these Marines, he wants the National Guard, police officers, and so on. If somebody, in their estimation, spits at them, that they have the right to have their skull cracked wide open. And to listen to MAGA Mike Johnson, this fucking pipsqueak, sit there and talk about Gavin Newsom should be tarred and feathered. The only reason that this little shit is still even there is simply because Democrats, how stupid they were. And you heard me say it a million times right here on Political Beatdown, how stupid that they were, within which to go against the other Republicans that wanted him out. This guy is a class A asshole. There's no other way to describe it. Shame on us. You know, that's the problem. Democrats, unlike the GOP, unlike Republicans, we don't know when we have something good. Fuck them. Let them turn around and not have anybody as Speaker of the House. Let them fight and kill each other. Instead, look what they're doing. Look what he's doing. He's now called up more Marines, more National Guardsmen. He's bringing in more. He's looking to deflect away from the important things that he was losing on. Number one, the fight with Elon Musk. Number two, this big, beautiful bill. They were getting their asses handed to them by GOP senators. They needed more time. So he manufactures this chaos. That's what Trump does. He manufactures chaos. You know, Ben, I try. You try. This Midas Touch Network tries to educate those people that are smart enough to come here and to listen to facts, I tried to bring in my unique perspective. Because unlike anybody else, nobody you see on television, I don't care how much you love Rachel Maddow or how much you like whoever else may be, none of them sat side by side with the guy for a decade and a half. None of them understand. None of them have the reference points that I tried to bring. And with Ben helping me to provide facts to you so that we can actually do something to protect our democratic republic, it is so important to share this network and all of the assets in this network with as many family and friends as you possibly can. Because unless we really organize, unless we actually ensure that the midterms go the way we need them to, and I'm not talking about just the House, I'm talking the House and the Senate, we're going to be in some real trouble. And we're trying to help to prevent that.
Even when that question was asked to MAGA Mike Johnson, the reporter said, Donald Trump said to Tom about Tom Homan, probably in jest, that he wants the governor to. There's nothing in jest. You heard what MAGA Mike said. We played the clips of what Trump said. This isn't funny, and they hide behind that too. Was he joking? Did he really not mean it? Look, there's a time and a place to be funny. There's a time and a place to joke. Not about arresting a governor after you federalize the National Guard and call in the Marines to attack people who are living within the United States of America. That's not the time to test out your new stand-up material and go, did you hear about the time that the governor? This is not a humorous time. You want to know when you do jokes? You could do jokes at the White House Correspondents' Dinner, where Donald Trump basically turned that into a Kim Jong-un style weirdo thing, took away the comedians from it, and just made people praise him and doesn't show up to it. That's a time where you can tell jokes. There are moments where a president is in an environment, a bipartisan dinner. Like there are times when humor should be used, but you go, I guess he was just joking. The 51st state, LOL. Okay, you're talking about conquering a country, which means you're going to be sending our Marines into Canada to lose their lives, kill Canadians. That's what 51st state means. Take over their territory in a bloody battle where then Europe will side with Canada against the US. China will side with Europe against the US, where the United States will probably get annihilated off the map. And we will have tens of millions of people who are killed. That's not I fail to see the humor in any of this.
Well, that's the problem with you, Ben, is you really just don't have a good sense of humor.
I need to.
That's really the problem. You really need to work on that.
I will work on it after our first break right here. When we come back, I do want to show the MAGA Mike clip, though, where MAGA Mike is specifically asked, so don't you think it's a bit hypocritical that you're going after these the protests against the ICE raids, but you are agreeing that all the January 6th violent insurrectionists should be pardoned? Not only do you not condemn J6, you call the J6ers heroes. And by the way, Cohen, you know this, the January 6th insurrectionists, the Proud Boys, their leadership, Enrique Tarrio and others, they filed a $100 million lawsuit, and they're probably going to get paid because they're using the words of Trump and the Republicans, and they're saying, look, Donald Trump said that we're political prisoners. Take judicial notice of the president saying that we're hostages. The president's saying it. So if we were hostages for 2 years, we should get money. And Trump's already paying out money to other insurrectionists. We've seen that. This is despicable stuff. Be visible. Don't normalize it. Don't say this is funny. Let people know how you feel about this. And we got a lot more to discuss. And keep having the Midas Touch Network grow. Subscribe to Michael Cohen's YouTube channel. at The Michael Cohen Show. Subscribe to his audio podcast, the Mea Culpa podcast, wherever podcasts are available. Subscribe to his Substack and our Patreon as well. I'm going to try to do maybe this Thursday or maybe next week. I'm having that epidural on Thursday I'm scheduled for in the back with the cortisone shot. And so they claim that that's going to make this thing a little bit better, but we will see. So I hope you're all okay that we haven't done that Patreon. I'm just trying to figure out my situation there. But we'll be right back after our first and only quick break of the show.
When your car breaks down, you take it to a mechanic with no hesitation. I mean, you need it, and it's not something most guys can fix themselves. Look, I know I can't, and men should think the exact same way about ED. But the reality is, you might be hesitant to seek help. Well, thankfully, through HIMS, you can get access to personalized ED treatment without ever stepping outside your door. HIMS is changing men's healthcare by providing you with access to affordable sexual health treatments from the comfort, get a load of that, of your own couch. HIMS provides access to a range of doctor-trusted ED treatments like chewable Hardmints and Viagra and Cialis and their generics for up to 95% cheaper. You hear that? 95% cheaper. The process, it's also 100% online so that there's no need for uncomfortable doctor visits. What you do is you just answer a series of questions on their site, and a medical provider will determine the right treatment option. And if prescribed, your medication, well, it ships directly to you for free. And there's no insurance needed, and one low price covers everything from treatments to ongoing care. Now, with hundreds of thousands of trusted subscribers, HIMS can help you find the ED option that works best for you. So start your free online visit today at hims.com/beat. That's HIMS.com/beat for your personalized ED treatment options. Again, that's hims.com/beat. The products mentioned are chewable compounded products which are not approved by or verified for safety or effectiveness by the FDA. Prescriptions require an online consultation with a healthcare provider who will determine if appropriate. Restrictions apply. See website for details and important safety information. Subscription required, and price varies based on product and subscription plan. You ever find that perfect couch, lamp, or rug online, only to have your soul leave your body when you see the price tag? Like, who's really paying $5,000 for a sofa when half the country's struggling just to pay rent? Look, I get it. I've been there. But then I found something that's basically a middle finger to the overpriced brand names, dupe.com. So here's the real deal. Most of the furniture that you drool over online, it's made in the same factories. Yeah, the exact same ones. The difference is some brands slap on a fancy name and then they charge you a fortune for it. Dupe.com cuts through the BS. You see, you just type dupe.com / before any product link URL and boom, it spits out identical or super similar pieces for way less, sometimes 60, 70, even 80% cheaper. It's not just furniture, it's clothes, shoes, jewelry, you name it, Dupe's got your back. And for the pros out there, interior designers, real estate agents, Dupe even has a trade program with a 10% commission on what you buy. That's hustle friendly. So why pay more for a brand name when you can get the same thing for less? Dupe.com is 100% free. There's no sign up, no catch. Just save your money and stick it to overpriced corporate greed. So go right now and type dupe, DUPE.com / before your next product link and watch the savings roll in. Start smart shopping today with dupe.com.
Boom, we're just learning as well that Terry Moran is either been fired or leaving ABC News. Not a big surprise. He was, it should be a big surprise.
He was suspended for 2 weeks from ABC. And I don't know what the ultimate result is going to be.
Well, we just got breaking news right here. Terry Moran is out of ABC News. Quote, "We are at the end of our agreement with Terry Moran, and based on his recent post, which was a clear violation of ABC News policies, we have made the decision to not renew. An ABC spokesperson says, let me make this direct message to Terry Moran, and zoom in on me for a second, if you will, Jeremy. Terry Moran, if you are listening and if you are watching this right now, we've just learned that your agreement has apparently been terminated by ABC. We want to let you know that you will always have a place here at the Midas Touch Network. I want to give you an example of what Katie Fang has been able to build when she became part of the Midas Touch Network, built out her independent media network. It has over 200,000 subscribers in basically 1 week, her YouTube channel. We are getting substantially more views here on the Midas Touch Network than any corporate news. We're doing 22 million views on this YouTube channel every 48 hours. And Terry Moran, we here at the Midas Touch Network believe that you are a fearless reporter. We will stand by you. We will never tell you what you can say, what you can't say. You will have the freedom to speak your mind at all times. And to Terry Moran and any reporter out there who feels they're being silenced, I'm telling you right now, join the Midas Touch Network, join the independent media movement. We will always have your back. We will always support you, and we will make sure we all stand up for democracy together. I'll go back to Cohen right there.
Well, I'm going to let Terry know I actually happen to know him and I have all his contact info. And I will let him know. And you're right, with Katie Fang, I mean, so far everything has just been, like a rocket ship, just straight up. Good for her. You know what? Big mistake for MSNBC. Good for Katie Fang, and good for you guys. Good for MTN.
Yeah, one of the things I've seen also, and I'll comment on it now, I've seen so many other ABC reporters, CNN reporters, whoever, say snide, snarky remarks about the Democrats. Oh my God, you want to get into what I've seen them say about Biden, what I've seen them say about Hakeem Jeffries, what they say about the Democratic Party, every day. I mean, I've seen, Jake Tapper calling the Democrats, something like super annoying or something like that.
Only because he's trying to sell his book, right?
But my point is that, and we see this with corporations also, where they'll bend a knee, where media bends a knee to fascism, to authoritarianism, because they know that the authoritarians and the fascists will hold them accountable, but that the other side believes in their free speech. So they feel far more comfortable to be critical of what Democrats and what voices of democracy say. And to me, that Terry Moran incident right there, and we just learned about it, just now, it just perfectly highlights to me why independent media is growing, what a lot of the issues are out there, because you have corporate media really being a mouthpiece for the regime. To me, it's all state regime media at this point if you're corporate media, because inherently, if you're corporate media, you are being run, you're owned by a corporation that feels that its regulatory survival depends on sucking up to Donald Trump. That if Donald Trump says something negative about Disney, if he says something negative, that it can harm the shareholder, it could harm the stock. Shareholders will lose a lot of money. That will affect exec compensation, and it will trickle down. And whether you're owned by Disney, whether you're owned by Warner Brothers, whether you're owned by Comcast, whether you're owned by Paramount, okay, those corporate overlords have other businesses. And there's also a reason why we see what they're trying to do is these corporations are basically siphoning their media properties into basically spin-off entities that are no longer even related to the parent company, so that they can now basically not even have connections, with and be supportive of the news right now. So I just want to I just, that was not part of what our outline was to speak about, but it was breaking news. And it's breaking news that breaks our democracy with things like that. All Terry Moran posted was that he said that Stephen Miller has evil in your heart. Damn right Stephen Miller has evil in his heart. Stephen Miller's a piece of shit. Let me say that. We could say that on independent media. You think I'm slightly afraid of this idiot? Absolutely not. We're going to stand our ground. He's holding whatever, issues that he was dealing with. I think he went to Santa Monica High School where he was attacking janitors when he was running for student government president out there. Everybody thought he was the biggest loser in high school when he was like, we need to make the janitors work for us. The janitors, we pay your salary, janitors. You do what we want, janitor. I'm going to find that clip for you, Jeremy, of Miller in high school. And then he's brought a heart of hate, no heart at all. He's brought hate, and he's somebody who, in my view, actually takes joy in hurting people. You think I give a shit about what Stephen Miller thinks about me? You think I give a shit what the regime thinks about me? You think we care at all about the Midas Touch Network right now in these times? You live once, as far as I know. You live once. Do you think I want to try to live that life courageously and proudly defending other human beings? Or do you think I want to live that life being freaking humiliated, being just treated like crap every day, the way Trump treats all of these, corporate sycophants who have to suck up to him, and I just think about it. Isn't the whole point the expression "fuck you money"? Excuse my language, so that you can tell people "fuck you"? Isn't that the whole point? So for the corporate billionaires, they have "fu money" so that they have to be scared of a man walking around the culture, a guy wearing orange makeup, and it's a very weird.
You know where they should be scared of? You know what ABC Disney should be truly afraid of? The 70 million Americans that voted for Kamala Harris, that vote for right. Don't go see one of these ABC Disney movies. Don't go see it. Boycott it. Don't watch ABC, even if that means that you're not going to be watching your favorite sports. Just don't watch it. Fuck them in their ratings. All right. Let them eat shit. All right. And at the end of the day, either they're going to start to do the right thing for all of America, or let them end up explaining to their shareholders why they ended up taking a side. You see, there was no point in them taking a side. What they could have done is just turn around and left it alone. I mean, we already see, as Ben said, you're talking about a group of individuals, these Trump enablers, these sycophants, these animals that are constantly attacking everybody. I mean, imagine Gavin Newsom. Imagine that MAGA Mike Johnson has the balls to turn around, and Trump and others, they have the balls to turn around and to say that he should be arrested. And you ask them why. What law did he break? Trump's response? Well, he's doing a terrible job. He's doing a terrible job in California. Oh, really? And that's, of course, Donald Trump's estimation, which I don't know what sort of credence you want to put on that, but he should be arrested because technically the king says so. That's what it's all about. This is not about protecting America from migrants or undocumented individuals. This is seriously one thing and one thing only, and that's power.
At the end of the day, if you think that sucking up to Donald Trump, if you're one of the board members of Disney, if you're one of the board members of Comcast, if you're one of the board members at Warner Brothers, you know how you became a board member of that company? Were you hoisted in that position by an oligarch? Well, I mean, it's possible that you had a lot of privilege and that there was nepotism. So, I mean, that is possible. But by and large, you did it in a system that was a democracy. That was the system until the Trump authoritarian regime. All of those mansions that you're living in and the private jets, which apparently can't satiate your appetite enough. You need 20 private jets, 10 won't suffice. Apparently, you figured out how to distort the space-time continuum because you need 20 mansions, because even though you're probably sitting in your same chair in your living room watching the same TV, no matter what, you need to believe that you're in all 20 spaces, or you collect them like trophies so you can try to brag to the other billionaire friends that you've got the most exclusive house on, wherever the super beachfront property is, or that you can't even use and utilize and actually enjoy for yourself. So you are so not confident about yourself and your position. And I frankly think you hate humanity. I think you hate humans if you can see a human being out there who is suffering. You look at a human being who's suffering and look at him and say, fuck you, which is what these billionaires say. If you look at a human who's in pain and you don't feel that you're trying to help that human and you have the ability, do you think someone who makes $4.2 million a year actually needs an additional $400,000 tax cut? Is that going to be materially meaningful in that person's life? Or do you think that the person who makes $50,000 and less, who's now going to lose their health care and $1,000 so that the rich people can get $400,000 tax cuts above 4.2 million, who do you think that's going to hurt more? And also to the rich people, do you think that that's not going to then create problems in your life? Do you think that these people who are sick and dying on the streets because you're basically killing them, where are they going to go?
And let's be fair. It's not all of the uber wealthy. Bill Gates, you may have seen, went and he reached out, met with Marco Rubio, Secretary of State in DC, all for what? To implore him to re-engage with USAID. That there are countries that are in desperate need. And I'm going to now refer back to what Ben said at the beginning of this episode, where China is now going to walk in and take over where America has always been a beacon at the top of the hill. America has been that. But now China is going to walk its way in because of our stupidity, for our isolationism. And now what do we have? Now we have Bill Gates going to speak to Marco Rubio, little fucking Marco, right? Who's going to go ahead and say to him, we need to re-engage USAID. It is important for humanity. It is important for their survival. And it is important for democracy. And what does little Marco do? Turns around and he says, no. Why did he say no? And so quickly? Because he knew exactly what Trump was going to say, because they spoke about it. And he knew he wasn't going to cross the dear leader, because crossing the dear leader would result in him being excommunicated from this church of hatred. That's plain and simple what's going on here. So, yeah, thank you to Bill Gates. And there are others. There are others that believe in humanity and doing the right thing. What Ben's talking about, the selfish billionaires, the ones that are all around Trump, that are encircling him because financially they have benefited more than they have benefited from any other administration in the history of this country.
Look, and when Democrats are scared sometimes to say, tax the rich. Democrats are afraid to say everybody should get health care for all. There should be health care for all. Everybody should get education. Everybody here should have, free or cheap education. Just say it. We can say we're strong on the borders. I want to be strong on the borders, but I believe there should be comprehensive immigration reform. I believe people who are here who have been here for a long time, people who are working, contributing to the economy, paying taxes. I think that there should be a bigger program like the Dreamers, because we saw how successful that is. And I think those people should get health care. I'm not afraid to say that. They're human beings. I think that criminals should be treated like criminals, real criminals, but you don't go into factories, you don't go into schools, you don't go into courtrooms while people are going through a lawful process. You don't go into restaurants like an Italian restaurant in San Diego, or I saw moments ago in Nebraska going to a factory and tear parents apart from their kids, go after innocent people, go into Home Depot parking lots. I mean, that's not going after criminals. Then at that point, just say what it is. You are racist. You want to get rid of the black and brown people with black and brown skin, and you want to replace them. I think there's a name for that, great replacement, with white people. All of a sudden, the white Afrikaners, you make up a fake genocide that isn't taking place in South Africa and say, bring in all the white Afrikaners. And then you say, see you later, Cubans. See you later, Venezuelans. Oh, wait a minute. You were Cubans for Trump. You were Latinas for Trump. You were Venezuelans for Trump. You thought you were chilling in Mar-a-Lago.
Right.
You look at the color of your skin. You ain't chilling in Mar-a-Lago. You'll be there as a prop. He'll use you as a prop. And then when it's time, when your statute of limitations expired, you're just a prop. You go back to Maduro. You go back to Cuba. That's where they send you. If you're lucky, they may send you to concentration camps in El Salvador or Libya. You may end up in Djibouti for 2 weeks. Who the hell knows with this authoritarian regime? You're a Mexican for Trump? So, really? That makes sense for you at all? Look and open your eyes right now. I saw that leader of Latinas for Trump, Ileana Garcia, state senator in Florida, and then Congresswoman Maria Salazar. I think she's a Congress member from Florida's 27th district. They both came out with statements. We are deeply disturbed and heartbroken by what Donald Trump has done, and our communities are living in fear. We still stand by our strong Republican values, but this is an issue that we need more certainty, and we need to figure out. Y'all were the people who walked your people right into this. As community leaders, you told your people, trust Trump. He's only going after the bad guys, the Dignity Act. He's not going after you. And former Vice President Kamala Harris was saying, that's not what he's saying. You're making that up. Look at his speech. They're saying mass deportations. They're saying 20 million. There's not 20 million criminals. They're considering you, because you're black or brown, a criminal based on the color of your skin. No, we're going to vote against Kamala. Okay, so you hated Biden and Kamala, who gave you temporary protected status, who respected your dignity and allowed you to have lives that thrived. You hated them. You hated them because you disagreed with them on transgender volleyball players or whatever roiled your blood. But
Ben,
Donald Trump believes you shouldn't exist as a person.
They lie about everything. There is nothing that they tell the truth about. Ben, for God's sakes, Gavin Newsom, right, didn't speak to Trump. And the same way Trump didn't speak to Kim Jong-un and he didn't speak to this one, they just turn around and tell you, literally, he makes this stuff up. And then everybody starts to parrot it. For what purpose? So that they could, again, lie and to create some fake narrative. It's why, thank God again for places like Midas Touch Network, where truth be told, it's where you get the truth. I can't take it anymore. It's like, as I sit and I watch the news over and over, and I watch all the lies that are coming out from whether it's little Marco to MAGA Mike Johnson to Donald to the groups of the enablers that are surrounding him, to all of them. You get the 2 fucking finger salute, all of you, for fucking with America's democratic republic. I mean, taking the greatest experiment in the history of the world and basically just taking a dump on it for no reason at all other than your own selfish greed at the expense of everybody else. Fuck all of you already. Enough.
2 finger salute to them all.
To them all. It's a global 2 finger salute today, Ben.
Notice that they go after California. California, which has the 4th largest GDP, not in the country, in the entire world. So it would seem that the diversity that exists in California is probably a net plus. You know how Donald Trump likes to say that the United States subsidizes Canada because Donald Trump doesn't understand the way trade deficits work and he doesn't understand the trade dynamic? We don't subsidize Canada. But guess what? California subsidized mostly every red state. Every red state in the United States would not exist but for California being a donor state and giving them the money for them to survive. They are taker states. They're leeches. The red states, by and large, are leeches, and then have the audacity to attack California, which is funding their very survival. You have Trump attacking FEMA today, MAGA Mike Johnson supporting Trump attacking FEMA. MAGA Mike Johnson's from Louisiana. Louisiana's entire state budget is what, $18 million a year? For Hurricane Katrina alone, FEMA, through the federal government, injected about $78 billion into Louisiana. So how are you going to transfer that function to the state? You're not. What you're going to do, and this is what Trump wants, is to create a mass casualty event. But then he and state regime media, both Fox and the types of entities that fire people like Terry Moran, they will bend reality. They will lie, and they will just say, "Oh, that's not, this is all perfectly normal." Like, to your point, Donald Trump was asked a question: when was the last time you spoke to Newsom? When was the last time you spoke to Newsom? Donald Trump says a day ago. Today is June 10th. A day ago is June 9th. Then Governor Newsom said that never happened. No phone call, not even a voicemail. Then Donald Trump goes on Fox. Donald Trump sends Fox actually a screenshot of the phone call that Donald Trump had with Gavin Newsom on June 7th. Gavin Newsom has been doing interviews with the media, including here on the Midas Touch Network, where he's talked over and over again that he had a call with Donald Trump on June 7th. That's not a secret. We're living in June 10th right now. Between the 7th and the 10th, a lot has happened, including Trump sending the Marines into Los Angeles. So then what Fox says for Donald Trump is that Gavin Newsom said that Donald Trump never called ever, and that Donald Trump is right. Look, he's showing that a phone call took place. Yeah, on June 7th. There's no one disputing that there was a phone call, but then Fox changes Trump's words and said, and Donald Trump said about a day ago or so. No, he said a day ago. This matters. And that's part of Donald Trump. Is it a jest? Is it a joke? He said a day ago, but he didn't really mean a day ago. He meant 4 days ago. That actually matters in a crisis like this. There was no phone call. Why would there not be phone calls after you activate the Marines and all of these things? Why would you not be calling and coordinating?
And for the same exact reason, when he said that he spoke with Xi Jinping and that they are close to making a deal, China responds back and says, we have not spoken to Trump at all. And so we, the American people, are left completely bewildered. We have no idea what's true, what's not, whether or not our own president is lying to us, or is it the president of China? We have no idea. We are completely in the dark because that's what Trump wants. He wants all of us to get tired, to just be numb, and that accept his new reality for ours. But we're not doing it. We're not doing it. We're not doing it.
And here's the thing, Cohen, when you are like, I believe China. When you go,
that's problematic. I believe Russia.
When you go, I think Xi Jinping is probably telling the truth here over Donald Trump. Because then you look to the objective data. If there was a phone call, then there should be a readout of the phone. Like, there would be objective things that would happen if there was a phone call. By the way, I found Stephen Miller's student government high school speech, I think at Santa Monica High School. Notably, one of the reasons why he hates California. Here, play this clip.
Am I the only one who is sick and tired of being told to pick up my trash? And we have plenty of janitors who are paid to do it.
Yeah, and I know a bunch of people who went to Duke with him who said that, whatever.
He's not
Terry
even
Moran,
worth the time talking, to be honest.
Terry
with you.
Moran, have your people call my people, which could probably just be me. Let's figure that out. Let's get it up and running. Terry, I want to get it up, Terry. I want to get this up running like tomorrow. Like, let's send a message. I don't know what the agreement allows you to do or not do, or if there's a severance agreement, but I'm ready to hit the ground running, Terry Moran, tomorrow to get started. We'll do YouTube videos right away, pump it out there, build you out a channel, build you out the platform. You own it. You own your channel. You'll be able to own it. And let's kick some ass. Let's kick some fascist ass. The way Michael Cohen and I are doing, and the other hosts here at the Midas Touch Network. Cohen, thank you. Midas Mighty, thank you. We'll keep you updated if Terry reaches out. Everybody hit subscribe. Let's get to 5 million. Also, subscribe to Michael Cohen's YouTube channel. Get Cohen's YouTube channel to 1 million. At The Michael Cohen Show. Subscribe there. Subscribe to Mea Culpa audio podcast, wherever audio podcasts are available. Hit subscribe. Search that. Patreon.com/political beatdown. Michael Cohen and I will be holding a live special meeting on our Patreon. Bear with me. Thursday's my injection, so I can't do it Thursday, but we will figure it out. Thanks everybody for watching. Shout out to all the Beatdown Brigaders, and shout out Midas Mighty.
Boom.